I 36M need to tell this story of how my family's betrayal turned into my greatest success. It's been a long journey, but seeing how everything played out makes it worth sharing. First, let me set the scene. I've been in the construction industry for 15 years, starting from absolute scratch right after high school. While everyone else was heading off to college, I was carrying lumber and learning everything I could about construction. My father always gave me grief about wasting my potential by not going to college like my perfect little sister, but I knew what I wanted to do, and I was good at it. Those 15 years weren't easy, dealing with entitled architects who've never set foot on a real construction site, handling impossible deadlines, and managing crews of guys who'd been in the business longer than I'd been alive. But I worked my way up from basic laborer to site manager through pure grit and determination. Then there's Jennifer, 34F, my ex-wife. Even typing her name makes my blood boil, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I met Jennifer through my sister Jessica, 34F, back in 2016. While Jessica was the academic one in our family, full scholarship to a prestigious university, sorority life, the whole 9 yards, Jennifer was her sorority sister. Looking back, that should have been my first red flag. Jennifer was different from the women I usually dated. Super educated, came from money, worked in marketing, or as I like to call it now, professional BS. When we first started dating, she'd make these little comments about my job that I stupidly ignored. Stuff like, "It's so interesting how you've made something of yourself without college," or "It must be so refreshing to do something so hands-on." Looking back, she was always looking down on my career, but I was too blinded by what I thought was love to see it. The irony? My lowly construction job bought our house, a beautiful 3-bedroom ranch-style home in a nice neighborhood. Jennifer's marketing salary wouldn't have qualified her for a cardboard box under a bridge, but somehow I was the one who needed to better myself. My parents, Robert, 65M, and Linda, 63F, never let me forget the difference between me and Jessica. Every family dinner was a highlight reel of Jessica's achievements. Jessica's design won an award, Jessica's starting her own business, Jessica's client list is growing. Meanwhile, I just managed a $2 million project ahead of schedule and under budget, but that wasn't intellectual enough to matter. Those first 4 years with Jennifer were good, or at least I thought they were. We dated, moved in together, started planning our future. I was actually proud of how well we complemented each other, me with my practical skills and steady income, her with her corporate connections and social skills. We got married in 2020, right in the middle of COVID. Had to have a small wedding, which pissed off her family to no end. They wanted some huge fancy affair. But honestly, that was the least of our problems. We talked about having kids, started planning for it. I was working extra hours, taking on more responsibility at work to prepare for the extra expenses. Jennifer seemed happy, we were looking at houses with bigger yards, talking about school districts, all that future parent stuff. I even started a college fund, because even though I didn't go to college myself, I wanted our kids to have that option. Man, I feel like such an idiot now thinking about all the time and energy I wasted planning a future with someone who was already checking out. It was a Tuesday when everything went to hell. I remember because I just landed this huge contract at work. We're talking a $5 million project that would have set us up for years. I came home early, thinking Jennifer and I could celebrate. Found her sitting at our kitchen island, the one I'd installed myself, by the way, with this weird look on her face. I walked in, and she didn't even look up. "We need to talk," she said. For words that never mean anything good in the history of relationships. Then came the confession. Turns out my dear wife had been sleeping with Brandon, 35M, from her marketing team for the past 2 months. But, oh no. She wasn't telling me this because she felt guilty. She was telling me because she wanted to be honest and work on our marriage. Direct quote, "I think this could make us stronger if we work through it together." Like, what the actual hell? Who cheats on their spouse and then tries to spin it as some kind of couples therapy opportunity? But it gets better, she actually sat there and tried to explain how it just happened. Apparently you can accidentally fall onto someone's dick multiple times, and how Brandon understood her in a way I never could. You want to know the real kicker? While she's sitting there confessing, her phone kept lighting up with messages. Guess who they were from?
Yeah.
Brandon was actually texting her while she was confessing to cheating with him. The audacity of these people, I swear. I just stood there for a minute, staring at this woman I thought I knew. 6 years together, 2 years of marriage, all those plans we made, and she threw it all away for some dude, in a suit who could quote Shakespeare or whatever the hell impressed her so much. Do you love him? I asked. Probably shouldn't have, but I needed to hear it. She had the nerve to start crying. It's complicated, she said. Brandon and I connect on an intellectual level that's different from what you and I have. There it was again, that subtle dig at my intelligence, my education level. Even while confessing to cheating, she couldn't help but remind me that I wasn't good enough for her precious intellectual standard. I didn't yell, didn't throw things. Just walked over to the liquor cabinet, another thing I built with my own hands, and said, I want you out of the house by tomorrow. She started protesting immediately. This is my house too. You can't just throw me out. Fun fact, yes, I absolutely could. The house was in my name only because her credit was trash when we bought it. All those fancy degrees, and she couldn't even qualify for a mortgage. Ironic, right? You've got until tomorrow evening, I said. After that, I'm changing the locks, and anything left behind is going to Goodwill. But where am I supposed to go? She whined, like she hadn't been sleeping at Brandon's place half the time anyway. Not my problem. Maybe Brandon has room for you. You two seem to connect so well intellectually, I'm sure you can figure it out. The day after Jennifer moved out, I decided to tell my family what happened. Figured I should do it in person, you know, be mature about it and all that. Plus, I really needed my family's support. I called my parents and Jessica, asked if we could all meet for dinner. They agreed, probably thinking I was going to announce a pregnancy or something. We met at this local steakhouse, the kind of place with peanut shells on the floor where you can hear yourself think. I remember ordering a beer, trying to figure out how to drop this bomb, when Jessica just says it. Is this about you and Jennifer getting divorced? Because she already told me everything. I nearly choked on my beer. The way she said it was so casual, like she was commenting on the weather. My parents looked confused. Clearly they hadn't been filled in yet, but Jessica, she already knew. And not just about the divorce. What exactly did she tell you? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Jessica took a sip of her wine. She always ordered the expensive stuff even though she made less than me, and said, about her and Brandon. About how they connected. About how she's been struggling with your differences. That's when it hit me. The way she said differences, all delicate like she was handling fine china, it was the exact same tone Jennifer had used. How long have you known? I asked. The waitress came by but I waved her off. Didn't think I could stomach food at this point. A few weeks, Jessica admitted, still acting like this was totally normal. Jennifer's been confiding in me. She's really going through a lot right now. I looked at my sister, my own sister, and it was like I was seeing a stranger. A few weeks. So you knew she was cheating on me and you didn't think to, oh, I don't know, tell your brother? That's when she went into full therapist mode, you know the type, speaking all soft and reasonable like they're explaining something to a child. It wasn't my place to get involved. Jennifer needed someone to talk to, someone who could understand the complexity of the situation. The complexity? What's complex about your best friend sleeping with a coworker behind your brother's back? My parents finally caught up to what was happening. Mom started crying, she always does that when shit gets real, and Dad just sat there looking disappointed, though I couldn't tell if he was disappointed in Jennifer, Jessica, or me. But Jessica wasn't done.
Oh no.
She leaned forward, placed her hand on mine like she was about to dispense some great wisdom, and said, look, I know this is hard for you to understand, but relationships aren't always black and white. Jennifer's been feeling intellectually isolated. You have to admit you two operate on different wavelengths. I pulled my hand away like her touch burned. Different wavelengths? Are you kidding me? She cheated on me. Yes, and that was wrong, Jessica said in that same condescending tone, but maybe if you'd been more attuned to her needs, more willing to engage with her on an intellectual level. That's when I lost it. Not violently, I don't do that, but I stood up, knocking my chair back. Let me make this really simple for you, since apparently I'm too stupid to understand complexity. My wife cheated on me. My sister knew about it and helped her hide it. Those are the facts. I didn't help her hide it. Jessica protested. I was trying to help her work through her feelings. She wanted to tell you herself, to try to save your marriage. I laughed, actually laughed out loud in the middle of the restaurant. Save our marriage by sleeping with another guy?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. If you'd just listen. Jessica started, but I cut her off again. No, you listen. You're my sister. When you found out Jennifer was cheating, your first call should have been to me. Not playing therapist to her, not giving her relationship advice, not helping her justify her affair. Your brother, the person who used to put band-aids on your knees when you fell off your bike, the person who beat up Tommy Wilson in 8th grade for calling you names. Remember that? Jessica had the decency to look uncomfortable. That was different. We were kids then.
Yeah.
We were. And apparently you've forgotten what loyalty means since then. I pulled out my wallet, threw some cash on the table. So here's how this is going to go. You can either cut Jennifer out of your life completely, no contact, no friendship, nothing, or you can forget you have a brother. Your choice. That's not fair, Jessica said, tearing up. You can't make me choose between my best friend and my brother. Best friend? I laughed again. She's my wife, the woman who promised to be faithful to me, the woman who's been sleeping with another man while you helped her justify it, and you're calling her your best friend? That night, I went home and started planning. If my family thought I was too simple, too stupid to succeed without a college degree, I'd show them exactly what this construction worker could do. I had contacts, experience, and most importantly, I knew how this industry really worked. The next day, I started the paperwork to establish my own construction company. While Jessica was posting about her creative endeavors on Instagram and Jennifer was connecting intellectually with Brandon, I was building something real. Something that would last. Let's see how their sophisticated worldview holds up against good old-fashioned success. Because revenge isn't just about getting even, it's about rising so far above them that they can't help but see what they lost. That was 6 months ago. Now. Well, let's just say karma has a way of working things out. But that's a story for another update. Update 1, it's been exactly 1 year since my last post, and things have developed in ways I never could have imagined. Time for a proper update on how my revenge through success plan is playing out. First, let's talk business. My construction company has exploded in growth, we're now handling contracts worth over $50 million annually. Remember that $5 million project I mentioned? That was just the beginning. Through my industry connections and reputation for solid work, we've landed 3 major development projects in the downtown area. The best part? 2 of these projects were ones that Brandon's company had been desperately trying to secure. Speaking of Brandon and Jennifer, their perfect intellectual connection isn't looking so perfect anymore. Through industry gossip, amazing what people tell you when you're signing their paychecks, I learned that Brandon's company is struggling. Turns out, quoting Shakespeare doesn't help much when you're trying to manage actual construction projects. They've had 2 major contract failures in the past 6 months, and their reputation is taking a serious hit. But here's where it gets really interesting. Remember my sister Jessica's successful design company? Well, I hired a business analyst, always good to know your competition, right, to look into their operations. What they found was fascinating. Her company has been operating like a pyramid scheme. She takes deposits from new clients to finish work for old clients, always playing catch-up, never actually making a profit. She's maxed out multiple credit cards trying to keep up appearances. That fancy car in her Instagram posts? Leased and 3 months behind on payments. The designer clothes? Bought on credit and mostly returned after being photographed. Her empire is built on sand, and the tide is coming in. The real kicker came last week. One of Jessica's biggest clients, a major retail chain, discovered she'd taken a $50,000 deposit and produced exactly nothing. They've got their lawyers involved, and suddenly all of Jessica's creative accounting is coming to light. Her business partners are jumping ship, leaving her holding the bag. They were smart enough to structure the company so Jessica is the majority owner, meaning she's personally liable for all the debt. But wait, it gets better. Jennifer, in her infinite wisdom, decided to invest some of her divorce settlement money.
Yeah.
Brandon convinced her to demand money from me. Joke's on them, the prenup was ironclad, in Jessica's company. Now she's about to lose that too. My parents have finally started to realize that maybe, just maybe, their intellectual daughter isn't as successful as they thought. Last Sunday, Dad actually called me asking for business advice. Apparently, they'd invested some of their retirement savings in Jessica's company too. I couldn't help but laugh. Remember all those times they told me I was wasting my potential in construction? The best part of all this? I haven't had to lift a finger directly against any of them. I'm just focusing on building my business, doing quality work, and maintaining good relationships in the industry. Their problems are entirely of their own making. Oh, and about that intellectual connection Jennifer was so proud of? Brandon's company just tried to bid for a subcontract on one of my projects. They're getting desperate enough to try working for the simple construction guy. I had my procurement team reject their bid, strictly business, of course. Their recent project failures make them too high risk. Jessica tried to reach out last week through a mutual friend. Apparently, she's going through a difficult transition period and wanted to reconnect with family. I sent back a simple message: I'm too busy managing my successful construction company to engage in complex emotional situations. I've also started dating again, met an amazing woman, 34F, who owns her own architectural firm. Unlike Jennifer, she actually respects what I do because she knows how crucial good construction work is to her designs. She doesn't need to quote Shakespeare to prove her intelligence. Her successful business and genuine respect for others do that for her. Looking ahead, I'm expanding the company into sustainable construction projects. There's huge demand in that sector, and we've already secured 2 major contracts. Meanwhile, Jessica's company is facing multiple lawsuits. Jennifer and Brandon are struggling to maintain their lifestyle, and my parents are frantically checking their retirement accounts. Karma really is the best revenge. Success is even better. And before anyone suggests I'm being too harsh, remember, I didn't create any of their problems. I'm just building my own success while they deal with the consequences of their choices. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting ahead and staying there. Update 2 will be coming soon. I hear Jessica's company is about to face some major legal challenges, and Jennifer's relationship with Brandon is showing some interesting cracks. Stay tuned. Update 2, quick update because things have taken an absolutely wild turn in the past month. Remember how I mentioned cracks appearing in Jennifer and Brandon's relationship? Well, those cracks turned into a full-blown earthquake, and my sister got caught in the aftershocks. Here's what went down. While Jessica was staying at Jennifer's place, after getting evicted from her apartment due to her business collapse, she discovered that Jennifer had been sleeping with David, 35M, Jessica's boyfriend of 2 years. Yes, you read that right. My ex-wife, who cheated on me with Brandon, was now cheating with Brandon on Jessica's boyfriend. The discovery was absolutely brutal. Jessica came home early from a meeting with her bankruptcy lawyer, hoping to catch David for some emotional support. Instead, she caught Jennifer and David in the guest bedroom, the one Brandon had furnished for their new home. The irony is almost poetic. When Brandon found out about Jennifer and David, he completely lost it. Turns out this wasn't the first time Jennifer had cheated on him. Shocking, I know. Brandon kicked both Jennifer and Jessica out since it was his house from before their marriage. Jennifer tried to claim half of everything in the divorce, but Brandon had an ironclad prenup. Guess she should have read the fine print before signing it. Now here's where it gets interesting. Jennifer is living in some budget motel with David, while Jessica is effectively homeless. My parents can't take her in because they're dealing with their own financial crisis after losing money in Jessica's business scam. Brandon is filing for divorce, and his company just lost their last major client. The cherry on top? Jessica showed up at my doorstep at 11 p.m. last night, mascara running down her face, looking completely broken. For the first time in her life, all her pretense was gone. No more sophisticated facade, no more condescending attitude, just my little sister who had finally learned the hard way that actions have consequences. You were right, she sobbed. About everything. About Jennifer, about my business, about all of it. I was living in a fantasy world, looking down on you while you were building something real. I threw away my relationship with my brother for someone who turned out to be exactly what you said she was. Did I let her in? That's a story for update 3. But I will say this, sometimes karma has a way of teaching lessons that no amount of intellectual conversation ever could. My company? Just hit $100 million in annual revenue. We're now the largest independent construction contractor in the state. I'm engaged to that amazing architect I mentioned, and we're planning a small, intimate wedding, no pretense, no showing off, just real love and mutual respect. As for Jennifer and Jessica? Well, they're both experiencing what it's like to live without their safety nets. Turns out all those sophisticated connections don't mean much when you've burned every bridge you've ever crossed. Stay tuned for update 3, I have a feeling this story isn't quite finished yet. Update 3, it's been 3 months since my last update, and I think it's time for the final chapter of this story. A lot has happened, and I want to share how everything ultimately played out. First, about Jessica showing up at my door that night, I did let her in, but with strict conditions. I told her, you're my sister, and yes, you messed up massively, epically messed up, but you're still my sister. Here are the ground rules. First, you get a real job, no more of this girl boss BS. Second, you cut all contact with Jennifer. Third, you go to therapy to deal with your superiority complex. Fourth, you help me renovate my basement, I've been putting it off for months. She actually laughed through her tears. You're letting me stay? The transformation in Jessica over these past 3 months has been remarkable. She's been sleeping in my guest room, applying for regular jobs, no more entrepreneurship for now, and actually learning how to do physical work. Most days, she has paint in her hair, her fancy manicure is ruined, but she seems happier, more real. Yesterday, she got a job as a regular graphic designer at a local marketing firm, entry-level position, but it's honest work. She cried when she got the offer, said it was the first real achievement she'd had in years. She's also been seeing a therapist twice a week, working through her issues with authenticity and self-worth. As for Jennifer, she tried to contact Jessica once, probably looking for a place to stay after things with David inevitably went south. Jessica blocked her number immediately. Turns out, David had been lying about his savings and job prospects. They got evicted from their motel when his credit card was declined. Last I heard, Jennifer was trying to crash on various former colleagues' couches, but her reputation precedes her. Brandon's company filed for bankruptcy last month. He tried to approach my company for a job, the irony wasn't lost on me. I had HR send him our standard rejection letter. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting people face the natural consequences of their actions. My parents? They're still trying to contact us through other family members, but we're both standing firm. They made their choices, consistently prioritizing appearances over substance, and now they're dealing with the consequences. They lost most of their retirement savings through Jessica's business and some bad investments they made trying to recover their losses. On the happier side of things, my company has expanded into 3 new states. We're now handling projects worth over $200 million annually. I've been featured in several industry magazines as a rising star in sustainable construction, not bad for a guy without a college degree, right? My fiancé and I are getting married next month, small ceremony, close friends only. She's been amazing with Jessica, helping her understand that true success isn't about appearances or impressing others, it's about building something real and meaningful. Jessica's been working on the basement renovation with me every weekend. Yesterday, while we were installing new drywall, she said something that really struck me. You know what I realized? All those years I spent trying to look successful, you were actually becoming successful. I was so busy posting about manifesting abundance that I never noticed you were actually creating it through hard work. She's also started a blog about her experience, not the fake girl boss kind, but an honest account of how she lost everything by trying to maintain appearances. She's hoping her story might help other people avoid the same mistakes. Her first post was titled, "How I Lost My Soul Trying to Look Successful," pretty powerful stuff. The biggest change I've seen in Jessica is her humility. She stopped trying to intellectualize everything and started appreciating practical knowledge. Last week, I taught her how to properly mud drywall, and she was genuinely excited about learning a new skill. "This is more satisfying than any social media post I ever made," she admitted. "My fiancé and I are building a new house. I'm doing a lot of the work myself, with Jessica helping when she can. It's become a kind of therapy for both of us. There's something about creating something tangible that helps put things in perspective. Looking back, this whole experience taught me something important. True success isn't about revenge or proving people wrong, it's about building something real, maintaining your integrity, and staying true to yourself." The revenge part? That just happened naturally as a consequence of focusing on what matters. As for the future? My company is launching a mentorship program for young people interested in construction careers. No college degree required, just a willingness to work hard and learn. Jessica's actually helping me develop the program's branding. Turns out her design skills are pretty useful when they're applied to something real. Life is good. My business is thriving, I'm marrying an amazing woman who values substance over style, and I've got my sister back, the real version, not the fake one. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes, but others can be rebuilt stronger than before. Final thought, success really is the best revenge, but not because it hurts others, because it shows you never needed their validation in the first place. I'm happy, genuinely happy, and that's worth more than any revenge could ever be.